Okay, we will start, and thank you all for attending this virtual marketplace, which is organized by CLAMTEX Project, and it's related to opportunities for the textile industry towards the Industry 4.0. Before we start, just some reminders. So we kindly ask to mute yourself unless you have a question on the dedicated Q&A session. In the Q&A, please place first your questions on the chat so that we can collect them and address them at the end of the presentation. This webinar is recorded, and we kindly ask all participants to turn off their cameras unless they are presenting so that the connection network is not overloaded. Also, we invite you to attend the B2B meetings until the end of the program, and my colleague will explain you more in details about that. Just as we start, let me go quickly over the agenda for today. So we have a first block where we will have a brief introduction of CLAMTEX and ClusterXchange, the CLAMTEX virtual marketplace, and the host organization, the EU Textile 2030 EEIG. And then we will have a second block, inspirational keynotes, with 3 presentations from EFFRA, DTIF, and Joachim Hensch Consulting. And finally, we will have a small block dedicated to synergies with other projects, with the presentation of the First Galactica Hackathon and text variant support options. And finally, we will have some B2B guidelines so that you all can network with the participants of this virtual marketplace through the BD Match platform that we have dedicated for the event. So now, with no further delay, I will quickly introduce you the CLAMTEX project. So I'm Josep, I'm the project coordinator of CLAMTEX, which stands for Cluster Management Towards Excellence in Advanced Manufacturing and the Textile Industry. The project aims to bridge the advanced manufacturing and textile industry towards industrial modernization and digitalization. So it's a project led by EEIG together with Textile in Spain, ClusterXchange from Portugal, which is part of CTF in Portugal, so EMC2 as an advanced manufacturing cluster in France, and PRODUTEC as an advanced manufacturing cluster in Portugal. The CLAMTEX project has 4 key objectives that are dedicated towards improving the cluster management and the excellence so that we can provide better services to our members. The first objective is to make a strategy review of each of the clusters, of the 5 clusters participating in CLAMTEX, so that we can provide better oriented services to our members. The second objective is the fostering of hands-on and cross-border collaboration with activities like today's and the virtual marketplace, so that we can connect the different regions and industrial ecosystems from the textile industry and advanced manufacturing industry to bring them together so that they can collaborate and establish partnerships, business opportunities. We have a third objective, which is the cluster's capacity building program, which is focused on the improvement of the skills of the cluster team members so that they can provide their members with better services. And finally, we have the fourth objective is of the creation of a roadmap for cluster collaboration so that we can create synergies between the different clusters involved in CLAMTEX and with other clusters as well, so that we can develop a long-term agenda for collaboration and for supporting our members in the long term. One of the key aspects of CLAMTEX is the implementation of the ClusterXchange program, which is a pilot from the European Commission, and it's implemented by the 13 cluster strategic partnerships for excellence that you can see on the screen. The ClusterXchange is aimed at organizing cross-border visits within the European Union for learning, exploring new markets, establishing collaborations, taking up technology by SMEs particularly, but also other scaling up organizations and even clusters. The ClusterXchange program is open, so it can be both physically, once the travel conditions allows it, and also virtually with where you can contact your cluster of reference in CLAMTEX. The duration is between 3 and 30 working days, and in case of the exchanges physically, we can offer financial support up to 1,100 euros per visitor. And that's something that will depend on the country of destination and the duration of stay. So in case you want to establish a exchange, please contact one of the 5 clusters, and we will provide more information about this opportunity. I would like to remind you that today is the first virtual exchange, so it's also one of the activities on virtual exchange. As it's virtual, there is no financial support, but in case that traveling is permitted in the near term, there will be options for you all to engage visits within the European Union as long as they are cross-border. So if you go to another country for 3 more days, you can contact us so that we will inform you how the ClusterXchange works and how you can benefit from the support. And with that, I would like to finish my quick overview of the CLAMTEX project. And now I will pass the word to Maria João from Product that will explain in detail the virtual exchange program and that we have on place right now. So, Maria João, the floor is yours to continue.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I will be presenting in brief the program for the 6 days of this CLAMTEX virtual marketplace. From today until February the 24th, every Wednesday morning we will have a session. These sessions will be divided in 2 slots, a first 2-hour webinar, followed by a 2-hour individual B2B meetings through the B2Match platform. The webinars will be organized in the following way. Today, after this welcome, we will have 3 very interesting and inspiring lecturers giving their perspective on the challenges and steps towards Industry 4.0. Afterwards, 2 brief presentations on Galactica and Text4IM, that are 2 projects that have some synergies with this one, CLAMTEX. At the end of today, we will have Julia Verscher explaining how the B2B meetings will work and demonstrating you how you can invite other attendees to meet with you. The 4 middle days are thematic, as I will refer in a moment, and we will have 1 or 2 success stories where companies will share with us their ongoing process on the uptake of the Industry 4.0 that we hope may inspire some of you to give the same step. After that, we will have a slot featuring the challenges that textile companies are facing, their overcomes and next steps in this thematic area. And afterwards, the advanced manufacturing companies will present their most recent solutions on that specific thematic area. So, a week from now, on the January 27, the thematic challenge is Digital Solutions for Integrated Industrial Management. Firstly, we will have MLS 1992, a Spanish company that produces customized sportswear goods presenting their digitalization strategy. On February the 3rd, it's time for automation and sensorization solutions for performance improvement. And there we will have 2 inspiration success stories. The first from ATA, that is a circular knitting company that will share with us the innovation implemented on defects detection that was implemented by SmartX. And the second success story on that day, it will be from Capacites, a spin-off of Nantes University, that will present application examples on materials testing in textile companies. Going to February the 10th, we will have a Portuguese company, EDEPA. It produces labels and trimmings, and they will present their cyber physical production system that it's called EDEPA 4.0. On February the 17th, we will focus on the potential of virtual reality in industry. And an inspiration success story will be on Morpheus, a design matching platform that emerged from a European project led by the Technical University of Catalonia in Spain. So all the clusters that are partners here will present their companies and their success stories. All the companies that will be presenting here, either in the inspiration success stories or on the textile future changes or advanced manufacturing solutions, are already in B2Match. So you can share experience or ideas with them in B2B meetings, besides the other meetings you can establish. For the last day, we have defined a very interesting program, so 24th of February, that will be devoted to the upcoming funding opportunities for SMEs digitalization. We will have several presentations, 4 on European-led programs or initiatives, namely Horizon Europe, EIC Instrument, Investment EU Single Market Program. And then we will have EIT Manufacturing and 2 European projects that have within their program some open calls specific for SMEs, the Elite and the Galactica projects. So we, the CLAMTEX partners, hope that you will be able to join us in all these sessions and to engage on virtual B2B meetings that we hope will be profitable to your business. Have a very nice day and profitable one. Now I will pass the word to Felipe Carrasco.
Felipe, we can
hear you. Hello, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the CLAMTEX partnership and the event organizers for the kind invitation to this magnificent event. My name is Felipe Carrasco, and I am the chairman of Youth Textile 2030. Last 20 years, I have been working in the textile industry at regional, national, at European level in different positions in European associations, federation, and clusters organizations. But now, going through my presentation, the way for EU Textile 2030 has been long so far, but today we can say that we have obtained highly satisfactory results so far. Our organization is founded in Brussels under the legal entity of Economic Interest Grouping, and we are a non-profit organization. Basically, we are a network of clusters. Our sector is advanced textiles materials, mainly technical textiles and smart textiles. And our sector is mainly our companies operate in different industrial sectors like automotive or medical or sport and some other fields of application of their products and services. We are more or less 700 companies, and we are representing also 90 research organizations. Our group of clusters have been working together since 2012, more or less, and we were beneficiaries of 2 projects funded from the European Commission. And after 7 working years, in November 2019, we decided to create a legal entity founded in Brussels as I said before. Our vision is very clear. We should improve the competitiveness of our companies, and for that we work on fundamental three axes, let's say, collaborative projects, internationalization, and fundraising. And I'm pretty sure that you are aware about what is technical textile or smart textiles. But one of our challenges of our organization is to help the companies to transform their business models from a traditional way of producing its products and services towards a model based on products with more added value and more competitiveness in the international markets. Because the growth of consumption of technical textiles in international markets, it's really interesting. We can have a look into this nice picture, because we believe that the survival of the European textile industry in general, let's say in general, must be based on differentiation and the added value that our companies are capable of providing to their products and services. We can clearly see that in this slide that the highest consumption of technical textiles is based on the geographic areas with the greatest potential growth capacity, such as North America and Asia, for example. This is mainly the reason why EU Textile 2030 should help textile companies to address international markets beyond Europe. In general, as I have just said before, our partnerships, our companies and partnerships are companies in the field of technical textiles. However, our work to improve its competitiveness affects many other sectors and areas of activity very connected to our sector. We are part of a much broader value chain, which is, as I said before, connected with other subsectors, such as, among others, machinery, fibers, chemicals, but also the public bodies or public administrations, and also the centers of knowledge of research. This is why we always say that EU Textile 2030 is an organization that supports sectors and, above all, promotes interregional collaborative work between textile, industrial textile clusters. And last but not least, an helicopter view of our current partners and their geographic distribution. Currently, EU Textile 2030 is made up of 7 clusters, and we cover practically the main European countries where there is a textile industry. And in general, this is all that I wanted to share with you about our organization, EU Textile 2030. In any case, I will be happy with your questions now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Felipe. Now we'll start the next session by João.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the keynotes presentations part of the session. We have with us 3 excellent speakers, and they're going to share with us some of their experience, but also their visions about the future. And they are Željko PAZIN, Stellmach, and Joachim Hensch. Remember, questions should be placed on the chat stating the speaker to whom they are addressed. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the first speaker. It's Željko PAZIN. I'm going to read here some notes. Željko is the Executive Director of the European Factories of the Future Research Association, EFFRA. He is responsible for the overall management of the association. EFFRA is an industry-driven association promoting the development of innovative manufacturing technologies in Europe. EFFRA is engaged as the official partner in European Union's Factory of the Future public and private partnership under Horizon Europe, and is now preparing for the Made in Europe partnership under Horizon Europe. In the past, Željko worked among others at the Technology Industry Association, at the European Commission, Chamber of Commerce and Economy Policy Department of a German university. The title of the presentation is Roadmap to the Future. Sorry, please, Mr. Željko, the floor is yours. I'm just going to put you in presenter's mode. 1 minute. Okay. Please.
João, thank you very much for this introduction. So thanks a lot for the invitation also to this conference, or it's a whole week. In fact, it's not just this session, as I learned. So yes, I mean, I will present you both the work of EFFRA, that's the association I'm working for, and also the Made in Europe program, which you might already know. It's part of Horizon Europe. And as João already said, there was the Factories of the Future partnership in Horizon 2020. Maybe you participated in one of the projects. And I will have a broad, kind of background information for you. Also those who don't know EFFRA or who don't know Factories of the Future, that you can also connect, and that you get a good overview of where we stand today. So let's see if this works. I will now try to change the slides. There's always sometimes a delay. Okay, now I think you should see it exactly. So as I said, I work for EFFRA. EFFRA is a European association. It brings together manufacturing companies, research institutes, universities, at least those universities who do applied research, also national, regional players, also clusters. So that's the scope of EFFRA. It's on, as I said, on manufacturing. So it also means the automotive industry, the automotive supply chain, aerospace, all the machinery industry, and it includes the textile sector. But I think compared to many other speakers, we are not focused on textile. So just to be clear, also for the call topics on Factories of the Future and Made in Europe, they also apply to the textile industry, but as I said, also to other sectors. And we know it's all connected. The challenges are often similar, and that's the service we can kind of give, all these connections between the different players in the manufacturing value chain. So we are a members-driven association. As I said, we bring people together. We mainly are the partner of the European Commission to implement a program, which is part of Horizon 2020 and later Horizon Europe. But we are also a networking organization where people meet. They discuss also things beyond the Factories of the Future PPP. So challenges in general and opportunities, funding opportunities for the manufacturing community. And we were also one of the first, in fact, the first association, if you look at, because there are different partnerships, as you know, and we were kind of the front runner, and because it worked well, the Commission then launched other partnerships, and I'm sure you are aware of this. So at the European scene, you know, there are different funding opportunities, and I saw from your agenda, you really identified the organizers, you identified the right ones. So, yeah, in fact, this I already said, we are cooperating with the European Commission to help them implementing part of the framework program. And we do this now for the third time. So we did this in Framework Program 7, Horizon 2020, and now Horizon Europe. And it's a kind of service to the European Union, to the Commission. For example, if you look at the call topics, our aim is to improve call topics, that there are no misunderstandings, that it's really focused, that that it's good quality call topics, so that later the projects are also of better quality. Here I give you just some buzzwords on what is a kind of now interesting, either from the political scene in Brussels and from member states and from the community. I think if you talk to companies, it's mainly about competitiveness, how to cope with the pressure from China, from other regions in the world. But as you know, today, if you are on the market, you cannot think only placing the product of the market. There are so many other different aspects you need to take into account. Society is changing, the priorities of societies are changing, environmental sustainability, circularity is just now mainstream. It's important. Everybody needs to take this into account. And if you look more at a political level, if you talk about industrial policy, of course, sovereignty of European industry, resilience of European industry is a big topic at the more macroeconomic level. So that's what we do. We discuss what are the challenges, we create a vision, and on this slide, for example, you can see what are the also opportunities, but also the challenges of the manufacturing industry, be it textile industry or other industries. So climate change, this need for a minimal, possibly zero environmental impact of manufacturing activities. It's a very big topic. And then you have other laws which are changing that need to be taken into account. You have the whole digital revolution. This provides huge opportunity. Skills, it stays a big topic. And now we have also the COVID pandemic. So that's a kind of the framework we are dealing with, and it can be exciting for organizations as us to cope with all these topics, but for companies it's a very difficult situation at the moment. And that's what we are kind of trying to transmit to the policymakers, to politicians, that because of all these challenges, you know, China, US, all these regions, they support their industries with big innovation programs, and we need to do the same. At national level, I saw Produtech before, so we have luckily at national and regional level strong players, and we have clusters, and we need also at European level, and that's where EFFRA comes into the place, a kind of a platform to meet, to do projects together at European level. So these are the documents, the roadmaps we produced in the last 10 years. As I said, FP7 in Horizon 2020, we produce roadmaps, identify the opportunities and challenges, and then discuss this with the European Commission. And out of this, later then you have call topics, which hopefully then really identify the right topics for the research organizations and companies interested or working in the field of manufacturing. And these topics are changing. They need to be political. If you look now at the Made in Europe objectives, of course, the European Green Deal, digital transformation, all these topics need to appear and need to be the objectives of such a partnership. But then we need to boil this down, and then we end up in call topics later. So here you see the overview of the general objectives, the specific objectives. So for example, excellent, responsive, smart factories and supply chain, that's a specific objective. And then we have on the right side, you see all the technologies, the players the enablers to obtain these objectives, such as digital platforms, for example. I mean, all of this you can also check on the EFFRA website. There are huge good documents behind this, and maybe you already saw some draft call topics. They are being negotiated now, and in the next weeks they will be published. And I'm sure there will be lots of opportunities for people here present today. So these are at the right side. I cannot go through all this, but just to give you an idea, there are then we get closer to call topics, and that's where I think it's interesting for you to do a scanning to see what is interesting from a textiles point of view. And there will be call topics that are relevant for you. Maybe not all of them, but many of them are interesting for your community here. And I'm sure, yeah, you will have a lot of opportunities in this sense. So this is now again just to show you, yeah, we need to look at different aspects, these specific objectives, excellence, circularity, the relation between the machine and the product, all this. So all this is being discussed, analyzed in these documents that are being produced, and all this is, of course, we are just a small one fish in the ocean. There are many other organizations looking at similar things, like the national clusters or the European clusters, like, for example, manufacturing initiatives at national level. The EIT manufacturing was mentioned already before, but then you have the digital innovation hubs, you have the other partnerships. So we are trying to connect to anybody who has a role in this process in terms of manufacturing technologies, manufacturing knowledge. Here you see, so I don't know how much you follow the Horizon Europe call topics. There are already some documents discussed. It's not yet finalized, this process, as you might know, but I think for you, cluster 4, the industry cluster, is interesting if you think of your Horizon Europe, and there is destination 1, climate neutral, circular and digitized industry. I think that's for most of you the most interesting aspect. And there you have section 1 and section 2 on manufacturing, and that's where we have these twin transition call topics, which should be interesting for you. So I think we will stay in touch with the organizers. As soon as the call topics are defined, we will contact you, and then you will get all this information. And yeah, I hope I was clear. I gave you an overview of our work. I hope I made you interested in these Horizon Europe activities related to Made in Europe. And I'm open to questions, preferably now. I saw, or later, I saw the comment. Yeah, so Maria wrote to put the questions here in the chat. So João, that's from me. I hope it was okay. And
okay, it was very good to see all the future, and namely the Made in Future initiative. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so we'll okay. do the questions will be made at the end. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Željko, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we are going to move to Dieter. Dieter Stellmach from the DTIF. Dieter has graduated in technical cybernetics at the University of Stuttgart, is working in Center for Management Research at DTIF since 1986. He's a senior project manager responsible for research in organization and management of sustainable value creation in circular networks, digitization, and individualization, as well for projects and project development and management. Sorry, at the DTIF is coordinating contacts for activities for circular textiles, as well as for the coordination of European research activities at the DTIF. Furthermore, it's proactive in networks and working groups for fibers and textile on European level, namely the European Technology Platform for Textile, Cloth and Fibers. The title of the presentation is Digital Microfactory, and perhaps it's the future of the Made in Europe, no, Dieter?
Yes, thank you, João. I think it is the future. For sure, we are convinced and we are working to all of this. Now let me share my screen. Am I the present? Do I have the presentation? Yes. Now I'm going into full mode. Just a second, please. Okay. You cannot see it fully. Sorry. Okay. So good morning, everybody. Thank you to João and Anna, to the CLAMTEX, to giving me the opportunity to present here our developments, the DTIF digital textile microfactory, a concept on the one side, and also the implementation. Many of you might have seen it already. And just to make a link also to the presentation before, we started with the development of the microfactory ideas a number of years ago, and also with the funding of the EFFRA and of the Manufuture and of the Factory of the Future projects. But today we are looking more, we are applying all the digitization and the digital aspects, and we are looking towards a textile circular economy. First, some of the background. I'm from the German Institute of Textiles and Fiber Research. We call ourselves the largest textile research center in Europe. We are active in all fields of textiles, in weaving, in spinning, and in chemical fiber production. And also we are active in the digitization in all applications fields. Maybe what we do not fully do is standard and pure fashion. We make functional fashion, we make medical textiles, we make high performance fibers.
Dieter, sorry, can you minimize the GoToMeeting screen?
Sorry.
All right, thank you.
No, I didn't. I did not.
It's okay now.
It's perfect now, Dieter.
Okay, because on my screen nothing has changed. Okay. Okay. Anyway, let me continue. And we do all from the molecule. We take raw materials from polymers and we transform them from fiber into fibers, into yarn, into fabrics. We make functionalized. We put it into the final product. And today we also bring it back into the molecule, which is an important aspect for the circular economy. Next slide. It's not working to some extent. Okay. We do in parallel not only the physical things, we also do the digital things in simulation, in digitization, and also in modeling for the environmental aspects. I will come to this more detail just now, and this is the reason why I also am here in the microfactory. I'm here in the microfactory itself. You may recognize a little bit. The principle of the digital textile microfactory can be seen here. We start from CAD, from design. In this case, it is clothing design. In 3D or in 2D, we transform it into the technical data, that it can be printed, that it can be cutted, that it can be sewn, and so on. And with all this information, which is automatically calculated and transmitted in our digital textile microfactory, we have a full seamless digital information flow. The processes we cover, you can see here a little bit more. We start on the left side with body scanning, with full body scanning, or also with partial body scanning of hand and feet, for example. We enter this data into a CAD system. In this case, we use the Human Solution Assist video system. As I said, then we transform it from the digital world into technical data, so that it can be produced. And this is also the reason why I marked it here in red, because on the body scanning and the 3D design, and also in this step in the virtual reality or augmented reality, we still are in the virtual world. We do not have anything physically available. After that, as soon as we are ready, as we have finished, as we have configured, as we have developed our design, our clothing, our textile, we can go into the printing, then into the cutting, and you can see the cutting machine just here behind me in our digital textile microfactory. We work today on automatic handling, on robotized handling, picking up the pieces and putting them onto the sewing or assembly machine, and then we go into the assembly, into the sewing itself. Only here we need a little bit, no, not a little bit, we need some physical, let's say, real physical manual work, but there's also a big progress currently. We do it not all by our own. We have commercial partners. Here you see some of our partners which have supported us or which have participated in the different installations of our microfactory in the fairs in the last years. This is Yuki, which is Željko, which is a Sint cutter, which is for Multiplot, and so on. And as I said, the core is a digital seamless concept, IT infrastructure which is configurable and scalable, and which will enable local value creation, which will make on-demand production, which is for me very important for the future, and made to measure, and thus contributing all to sustainability. Two, let's say, particular aspects. One is about machine control, or configuration of the product, or configuration of the processes itself. In this context, we use artificial intelligence and big data mechanism. For example, to analyze the production data, to analyze the machine data for quality aspects, to analyze and to process the body scan data. And we also use the learning, self-learning and optimization algorithm in order to calculate optimized machine settings for the printing, for the cutting, for the sewing, or we use it for the resize calculation in textile production, or we use it also for morphotype determination. If we start from the body scanning and then we transform it into the CAD model, there's also some artificial intelligence mechanism which we have developed and implemented. The second aspect is about sustainability. We modeled the microfactory processes. Here you can see it, starting also here from 3D design, color management, printing, in this case also calendar, cutter and confection with the Juki sewing machine. And with our model, based on the MFCA method, we can make precise analysis of the CO2 footprint. We can also make analysis of the costs, but here you can see the footprint. And now you may ask yourself, okay, if I have, let's say, that's your polo shirt, I can put the question to the audience here, what is the weight of this polo shirt? The weight of this polo shirt, okay, it may be some 400 grams, and weight in CO2, it is 2.8 kilograms. This we have calculated with the model and making analysis of the processes. So these have been two aspects of the digital microfactory. Now coming, okay, how can I apply it? How can I use it? In which application scenario can I or should I use it? There are some, let's say, 5 concepts how you can use your how we can use the digitized processes in various dimensions, let's say. Number one is a standalone factory with the appropriate capacities, upscaled, very minimum 1 printer, 2 printers, or if you have a high throughput rate, we can easily upscale it with bigger printers or with faster printers and so on. We can also put the concept into a factory. We call it factory in a factory. And you might imagine just like we have it here in a room, in an experimental factory. This is what we have in our premises. But in your factory, you can also implement it, just the cutting machine, the sewing machine, and the printing machine, other direction, of course. And so a third one could be that we have it in a technological lab. This is in a center. This is what we have here. And we invite you to come to us to see it and to ask us, and also to make experiments, maybe with your machinery, maybe also with your products and processes. We can also have it as a factory in the shop. There have been some famous examples in the last years with the Adidas Speed Factory and so on. Here, this is more or less in the same dimension and possible. And the fifth one, sorry, the fifth one is that it can be also made in a mobile, maybe in a container or something like this for events and so on. Even if today the necessity or the opportunities are not really huge. So, coming to the end, the main aspect is the digitized seamless connection information flow, that we have the physical process on the bottom, and that we have a full digitized process, a digital twinning, let's say in parallel, and today or for the future, maybe not even in parallel, but also as the main or fully merged or melded with the physical process. For the future, we cannot separate the physical processes and the digital processes. For the future, it has to be one common thing which cannot be separated. So to think and act digital as long as possible, and only in the last minute, in the last mile, to go to the physical things. The integration aspect I already mentioned, and I also mentioned the automated and optimizing process control, AI supported. And the main aspect is that we can make to measure on demand and print into marker, and we have multiple factory configurations. So that's all for my presentation information. I hope I could give you a short, let's say, overview of the concept, the realization, the implementation. What I did not mention is that we also go into the definition and configuration of business modeling based on the processes you would like to have, and the products you would like to implement with your digital microfactory. Thank you. That's for my presentation, and I'm available for questions just now or later on. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dieter, for your presentation and the whole concept. Not only a concept, because it's already reality regarding the microfactory that you have there. And I have the pleasure to see 3 examples of a microfactory in the 2019 in the fair. So thank you once again. We are going to move to Joachim Hensch. Joachim has a profound and holistic knowledge in garment manufacturing, technology and innovation, starting as a tailor for several years in bespoke couture. He later moved into ready-to-wear business, and since then has taken various positions, mainly in the field of product development. In 2015, he took the position of managing director for the biggest factory of Hugo Boss Group, located in Izmir, with 3,800 employees. His most important target is to transfer all organizations into a flexible and reactive smart factories with implementation of Industry 4.0 measures. That is to prepare for a highly volatile, demanding, and impatient market environment. In September last year, he founded his own consulting firm and thus helps apparel manufacturers and startups with their transformation towards modern manufacturing methods and mentalities. He lives in Stuttgart, Germany. The title of the presentation is the name of a song that you should all know. It's Should I Stay or Should I Go? And I believe it's from Clash.
Yes.
Yes, okay, transition manufacturing into the 21st century. Joachim, I'm going to give you the presenter role, just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, the name of the is quite appropriate now, the clash, you know.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to switch to my presentation, which hopefully works this way. Suck. Okay, so let me see if this works here. Yes. So my title is "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" And the reason was I like this title very much because it shows the dilemma of sometimes we like things very much because we look backwards, and sometimes but nevertheless we understand that if we can stay for a while this way, but ultimately it will have a clash and it will come to an end. So there's a point in time where we have to let go of some beloved situations and have to move on. And I guess this what we see right now is something that really needs to move. Every one of us is now living in a different environment and living in a different world, and circumstances have changed dramatically. Yet at the same time, we have boosted our digitalization. We were digitized by force, let's say, in the recent 12 months. And a lot of people who didn't like anything with regard to digitalization, they were just simply overthrown. You know, they had just they had to move, otherwise they would be out of business. And so this means that a lot of different things happen to our environment. And I want to touch a couple of these topics with regard to manufacturing and with regard to apparel manufacturing. And these are not new topics. I just want to say that when I started in 2015 at Hugo Boss in Izmir, I had attended a workshop about leading the factory of the future 1 year before. And there was a lot of talks about Industry 4.0 and how to implement this. And I thought, okay, here we are. We have a big, huge factory here, and we have a lot of setups here, and big setup, own IT, own HR and such. So we can really make a change. This is 5 years ago, actually. And if I think back now, then I was super impatient, and I thought, okay, now or never. Now, 5 years later, we see that still a lot of factories didn't change in the past, but now they feel the urgency of, okay, now I really have to move because otherwise I will be out. So all this transition, this change into a so-called Industry 4.0 environment requires a lot of different changes in different areas of your organization. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these. So one thing for sure is that the customers we had 5 years ago are very different to the ones we have today. We had already social media in place 5 to 10 years ago, but nowadays we have a super connected customer. We have a super connected world, which means like basically everyone who has a smartphone has a voice. And the interesting thing compared to, say, 20 years ago was that people would follow brands, but they had no voice. Nowadays, every customer can get in touch with their beloved brands or with their meaning and their feeling and their own likes. They can get in touch with the brand immediately. And some brands start working with this, the one who work on demand, and some others, they just measure this, let's say, in terms of brand value, and some others. For the production, it's actually a big change because literally every customer has a voice and has a feeling about what he wants from brands, which means like not only the on-demand brands that are popping up now everywhere. You see lots of them on Instagram nowadays, small startups who produce on demand. But also other brands, bigger brands, they realize that they cannot just have 3 or 4 collections in their stores and then hoping that this sells, because the customer has changed and the wants of the customers have changed very much. They want to be seen as an individual. So for production, this means like you have a million single customers' wishes, and that of course drives the supply chain. And the supply chain used to be very predictable, although not sustainable, but very predictable. I remember times when we had yearly capacity discussions with our I had with my colleagues in sourcing. So we would say, okay, next year we expect, I don't know, 1 million suits to produce in your factory. So just make a plan for this. Today, this is strange. I mean, this is a strange thought. Of course, there's no one is going to make a prediction about the next year to come when it comes to sold goods and the whole supply chain as such. So we see that on one hand, we have a very scattered landscape of consumers who have particular and individual wishes. And on the other hand, we have still a systematic supply chain, which is not made for it. It's still rigid and is based on longer terms and seasonal approaches. And we have a clash here in capacity and complexity fluctuation. And companies feel this. I have a lot of talks to smaller and also bigger companies, and especially the Asian, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh factories, they used to have orders with like 100,000 t-shirts in white or in yellow or green, and then they see the orders get smaller, it's more scattered, the lead times get shorter. Now today we are talking here to Portuguese factories, which they have a big advantage because they are very close to their markets. So they have, I guess it's a huge, before we talked about European, made in Europe, it's a huge advantage for Portuguese factories to be so close to their customers, and also because of their normal and average sizes, which make them more flexible into this topic. But the capacity is unpredictable nowadays, and organizations have to change accordingly. And there is no one method that you can follow. I mean, you can read loads of theoretical presentations about Industry 4.0 and how it will help you, but it's not that easy. I mean, there's no blueprint that you can just take and then put into place in your organization, because every organization has a legacy and has a history and there's a reason why it is as it is. So one thing for sure, and we talked about this before as well, is that besides operational excellence, there is a strong need for digital excellence as well. We all know this in our, I mean, we have a conference right now which is completely digital, which would have been impossible to think about, say, a year or 2 years ago. People would not show up. Nowadays, there's no other way to be in touch. So the same is on the shop floor. We have an operational excellence team which tries to improve and implement Kaizens on the way, but we need to build this digital excellence as well. We have to understand that we are actually building two ecosystems. One is the analog factory, the one that we know, and the other one is the digital factory, which is rather new, let's say. And when it comes to the investment and where we are right now, that's why I said before, there's no one way that you can walk. I mean, every factory, every company owner has to ask himself and his organizations where they are right now. You cannot start with smart operations if your engineering fundamentals are not ready yet. It doesn't make any sense to digitize something which is not lean yet. So again, this is very much about what are your biggest pain points right now, which you have to tackle and which you have to prepare. But then you have to constantly move up the stairs to ultimately get digital, because for sure what you should always think about is not investing in the museum of tomorrow. I'm always saying this because there are very convincing stories right now still to invest in topics which feel comfortable, and they feel you feel good because you understand them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that these kind of tools are going to be needed in the future. For example, when you would implement standardization tools, you should always think about different customer and a different order and lead time situation in the future. So being too standard and too optimized is probably not the right investment for the future. Now, clearly, what is something that I learned from the 5 years transition in Izmir was that if you have a messy analog situation, it gets worse if you digitize and have then an analog and a digital messy situation. So one thing for sure is, if you think about digitization, if you think about Industry 4.0, think about your physical setup first and clean the mess. I can just tell you by experience, the digital mess is much worse, because physical stuff you can see and you can feel and embrace and have an understanding about cleaning, but digital mess is terrible. I mean, we had a couple of situations where we found out that we had to literally start from the beginning again, because there was no way that we could clean digital informations and data afterwards. So that's something that is really super important, is that you have to understand, where am I now, and cleaning this and making this transparent enough so that you can then jump on your digital journey as well. Now, talking a little bit about the floors, still we have a lot of floors who look like that, and they look very clean and lean. It looks very well, but it's still not really digitized. I mean, just my before presenter said that we should be digital as long as we can, and then become physical. I would add to that in this physical part of manufacturing, designing and manufacturing apparel, we should not forget digitalization. I had a very interesting feeling or an experience when I was with my family. This is my son here. I was with my family in Israel 2 years ago. So we were in Tel Aviv, and you know, Israel is very famous for, they have a lot of startups. They do a lot in battery technology. They do a lot in really high tech. It's a really interesting spot. And then you drive into the desert, and all of a sudden you're disconnected. Nothing, everything is stopped. And that's a strange feeling when you are in a country which on one hand has a very high-tech area, and then just 1 hour away or 2 hours away, you're completely detached. And that's something that happens very often with our digital processes. We are super in designing 3D, in making the 3D patterns as well. Then we put it into production and everything stops. We start printing paper and forwarding paper, and that's strange somehow, because later on then we try to sell again in e-commerce, in online shops. So this part in the middle is still an analog valley, and that we have to put the chain together. And I just want to give you 2 examples here of of companies who work with this. I have no relationship to them. I just talked to the owners a couple of hours, which was very interesting. One is Actix. It's a startup that works with decentralized systems. So we hear a lot about putting everything into the cloud and such, and they have another approach, saying, okay, why not let everything work with everyone, and saying, okay, these systems work together. And so it's an edge system which actually digitizes everything that you have on the shop floor. The other one is Tulip, of course. It's a small company that also works with, say, they materialize your information and make them useful. And that is something that is a very, very good thing, especially for smaller companies. Now, everything starts with employees, because you can buy technology as you wish. It means nothing if you have no people who work in the right way. And the past organizations were like this. It was very steep. You had a lot of employees, and then you had loads and loads of hierarchical levels, and they were the system and the knowledge system was made for that. Nowadays, everything is flat. Everything is flat, which means like the informations are flat, and the expectation of decision making is flat. When you work with young employees, young fellows, they don't want to wait 2 or 3 hierarchy levels to get a decision. They want to make it by themselves, and that's a good thing, because with digitalization you can provide these people with the right information to make decisions by themselves, to be faster and not wait for this hierarchy. So ultimately you have to build a system which is super fluid, which means like not I'm working in the I'm a leader of the trouser line, or I'm a leader of the jacket line. No, I'm working in an environment which produces apparel, and I will be there where I'm needed. That's a very important approach for digitalization. So learning and unlearning is something that I also understood was important, and learning is the better, the more fun you have. Now, every one of us is in gaming right now, and this is interesting. If you, I mean, I didn't fly for a year basically, but it was interesting to see that basically everyone is playing. Elder ones, younger ones, everyone has games on his computer or his smartphone, and we can use this kind of mentality, this dopamine-driven activity, we can use for trainings and learning sessions. And here are some examples of how you can use this in the factory. I mean, you can make people learn with new technologies, and you let them learn by themselves. So there's no training needed, or no trainer or some other setup, other than preparing these sessions and let the people embrace knowledge in a funny way. That is very important for the new world and the new flexibility that we need on the shop floor. Now, innovation is something that, of course, is essential here, because there are lots of things in Industry 4.0 which you can, or this smart factory and leading the factory of the future areas, which you cannot go back and buy something from the shelf. There's no, this is not about improving something that you have. It is building something that you don't have yet. And it's not the typical Kaizen and lean approaches that are needed here. Very often you have a situation where you have no clue about how to do that. So you have to build an innovation setup or an innovation mindset in the people's minds. And you have to come to a point where self-innovation becomes a daily habit as lean, as improving the current. There should always also be a kind of innovation mindset, which is to be built. It takes, I've been in 2017 at Tesla in Fremont, and they said it takes like 3 years to build this innovation excellence approach as operational excellence approach, innovation excellence approach. It takes time for this, so you have to start somehow and give it time and patience to build it, but I really urge you to do that. So it's ultimately, as I have said before, it's very much about the combination of Industry 4.0 and the people that use it that makes the magic. And you will need it for the flexibility of the demand-driven production. So coming back to my initial part, now the biggest thing here is, and I hope there are some company owners or factory owners listening, the big picture is the first thing that you have to understand. Quite too often, you start dive into Industry 4.0 with a problem. So, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, if I have a quality problem, buying a software for measuring quality is a good thing. But you need to have a full, you need the full frame, you need the full picture to understand Industry 4.0 and the factory of the future, to then understand what puzzle pieces do I have to work on in the next 6 months or in the next year or in the next 2 years. And if we know that the world is more scattered, then it is helpful, yes, to think about quality, but it is also absolutely important to have a leadership team or an organization or a line setup, which is then prepared for the demand-driven production that we are going to see in the next years to come. Because otherwise you will be overwhelmed. You will have a quality management system in place which helps you, and then the next problem starts because you didn't take care about it. So the big picture of Industry 4.0 is something that I always emphasized on in the last 5 years when I was working in Izmir, always saying, okay, listen guys, we are becoming a smart factory, and under this picture there are lots and lots of topics and activities that we have to work on. Some are urgent because they have to solve problems of my current production, but a lot there are projects invest into the future of this smart factory picture, of this big picture, and we will work on them. And once the market has changed, our factory will be ready. And that is something that I can really, I cannot emphasize enough on that. Working one step at a time, but always looking into the same direction. Understanding the big picture of who you want to become in 5 years is super important, because in this digital environment, in this unknown territory, there's a lot of money that you can burn and have no impact at all. So with this being said, I just want to say, I always close my my presentations with this. What will be the first thing that you are going to change in this week? And it's nice to follow presentations and to listen to talks and what it's all nice, but it means nothing if it was just entertaining. So there should be one thing. I hope that I could give you some hints and maybe some directions. Maybe one direction that you're going to touch on and that you're going to discuss with your peers or with your employees, and saying, okay, I just heard about something. How do we want to tackle this to be ready how do we want to survive in 5 years' time if this is going to happen? How do I survive if I have double or triple the complexity with the same amount of people sitting in the office? Because the production is okay, but maybe handling all this complexity will be cumbersome. So how do I want to manage that, and how do I want to do that in the future? Start somewhere and build your big picture. And with this, I'd say thank you very much, and I'm open for questions, of course.
Thank you, Joachim. One of the best last slides of the week or the month.
Thanks.
I'm sure. Okay, so move on to Q&A. I'm going to see what we have here for you. Feel free to ask any questions. Some questions will be for a particular speaker, but anyway, feel free. Okay, I'm going to start with one for Željko. Are you there? And the question is, do you think that digitalization will attract young, high-qualified resources to traditional sectors such as textile and clothing?
João, was this for me or for who?
Yeah. For
okay.
Željko. First speaker.
Thanks a lot. I didn't see the question. Yeah. I mean, on the question, I think it will. To be honest, I mean, before the example of gaming was mentioned, or just this barrier not to go to university to study 5 years informatics in order to get a job later. I think we are now at this stage that the tools are user-friendly, and which makes the entry easier for people, and it's also easier to sell a job to youngsters. So I think definitely it has a positive effect, and it will help us to make engineering or manufacturing jobs more attractive. Yeah.
Okay. Other speaker want to comment or add anything?
I may add from my side, yes, I also think so. If you make the factory of the future, the digital textile of the future more attractive to the young generation, then it will become more attractive, and the people, the young generation will think more to go into the textile industry and clothing industry. And also, maybe even due to the Corona pandemic, the textile necessity or the function of textiles comes more into the mind of the people. So I think there will be for sure, and let's say, yeah, maybe even a push that the awareness of textiles and what is necessary and what can be done with textiles and how can digitized things be implemented and used for textile will help the textile companies and make it more attractive.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I just want to say that I guess there's still this romantic feeling about how the apparel industry works. And so if you are now a young fellow, say, I don't know, 20, 25, and you think about sitting in an office in an apparel company, then maybe you have a feeling of that's a very traditional industry. And And I guess we have to make the working in apparel a little bit more sexy. You know, if I compare this with the manufacturing of cars, again, coming back to when I visited Tesla in 2017. I mean, I've been to a couple of car manufacturers factories like BMW and Porsche and Mercedes and others. And for sure, what I saw in Fremont was not the best manufacturing line at all. And it was also not the cleanest and whatsoever, but it was the definitely most sexiest one that I've ever seen. So the thing was that the first thing that I saw when I went there were 1,500 software engineers sitting in a huge building and thinking about AI, you know, thinking about full autonomous drive, about systematics, about entertainment in the cars and whatever. And I'm driving a Tesla now by myself for like 1 year. And I understand this now from a consumer perspective, but I understood it also at that time from like an employee perspective. If you work in an organization which emphasizes very much on something that is sexy nowadays, which is technology and sustainability, and before we talked about CO2 footprints and such. So if you advertise your company, your factory, as someone who understood the challenges of the future and that you want to create a difference, then I guess people will buy it. I'll just give you one example about Izmir. So when I started to work there, we had 13 people in IT, and when I left, we had about 30. And the reason was because we needed a lot for this Industry 4.0 approach. We did a lot of programming by ourselves. Now, if you want to have an AI big data analysts working in an apparel manufacturing plant, then you are competing against banks and insurance companies and IT companies and so on and so forth. So you have to explain a convincing story that people say, okay, that's an interesting spot. I want to, at least for a couple of years, I want to be part of this journey because it sounds like I can have an impact on something which is worth doing. And I guess that's something that we miss sometimes. That still, if people see manufacturing plants in apparel, they see either the terrible old ones, like, okay, I have sweatshops in Ethiopia or somewhere else, so that there's one thing, and the others is very technical and which were like the textile industry about the fabrics and such. And then you have the tailor thinking and something like that. So I guess bringing this technology that we all talked about before, talking about the microfactory, talking about the initiatives from the European Union, I guess that's something that we have to emphasize more for the apparel industry, and saying, listen, guys, this is an industry that has a lot of potential for you to make a difference. So do you want to be part of this difference making or not? And so that's my take on that.
Yeah, and at the end, as you said, it's all about people. Then perhaps you need better interfaces for the people working at the factories to have Absolutely. The same experience as they have with a mobile phone or with a tablet or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move to another question, and this is for Dieter. Dieter. The question is, so you create an avatar with a body scan, then how you manage the fabric behavior, comportements, perhaps it's in French, how you manage the fabric behavior in order to fit the product before cutting it?
Yes, so technically it is possible to take my body scan and to put it into an avatar. Let's say, the question is only, does the company, or do we have individual avatars? Do we have typical avatars? It depends on. In any case, if we have, let's say, a set of avatars available in our library, in the CAD library, then we can take my body measurements and adjust the avatar according to some rules, which are also defined in the system. So that's the transformation from my body data, physical body data, into the digital body data. Next step, the system is able to do it, and it depends on, of course, of the business model at the end, or of the processes if you really do it. So but that's the first step. The second step is that we take the avatar data, and then we take the clothing data, which we have an idea, or which we are developing, or which we have to customize or make to measure. Then we take the clothing and we put it on the avatar, and then we have also here a set of rules how to adjust the clothing dimensions according to the avatar dimensions. Some of them are still done manually, but it increases step by step, so that many or a lot of these adjustments on the shoulder, on the neck, on the length of the calf, and so on. Some of the adjustments are today already done automatically. Okay, then I have the final clothing dimension. The next step is to transform it into the production data, because if I want to print it on demand, and if I have to cut it on demand, then I have to, of course, I have a 3D model, I have to flatten it, and after flattening, I have to think about the shrinkage on the one hand, I have to think about the sewing line, the sewing addition, and this will be also done automatically. This is in the database of the CAD system. So the steps are more or less done automatically. Yeah? Okay. And I see there's a final question about the fabric consumption. The fabric consumption, okay, this is still a little bit an open issue. It depends on what you see in the background here. I'm not quite sure if you can hear me, but you may see that in this case, the fabric consumption is maybe higher than normal, because we cannot adjust, or we did not optimize the laying of the pieces. Okay, we should not forget, we might not forget that the non-printed parts of the fabrics are much simply erased at the end, yeah, because there's no color on it and no chemical. It can be much more easily recycled or reused. But then it depends also on the business model at the end. If you have a set of products or a set of orders, customized orders, you can of course automatically done the optimized laying, the marker laying, and so on, so that you can save the fabrics. But of course it is different to a full mass production if you have, let's say, 100 layers of fabrics.
Okay, thank you, Dieter. I have one final question for Mr. Željko about Made in Europe. How do you see the future? Are you going to produce everything that Europe consumes, and to whom are we going to produce? I mean, the consumer of the future, it's an European one, and we are going to produce in Europe for that kind of consumer. How do you balance both things?
Yeah, I will answer the question, and I see in the chat there is also another question on Industry 4.0. I think it's a very interesting question. We can also address this all together later. On Made in Europe, I mean, look, there is at the political level a feeling we need to get more sovereign. You know, if you look at all the data economy, it's a US economy. If you look at China, they are getting stronger and stronger in all segments. So there is this political fear. Well, you know, we need to do something. We are a bit we have a weakness here. On the other hand, now talking macroeconomic and talking from a industry perspective, this sovereignty thinking, yeah, we cannot exaggerate, because we live in a globalized world. We wanted this globalized world. It was also industry who wanted to have just-in-time production, not only, you know, around your factory, but including all the suppliers. And we also depend on globalization. If you take the export ratio of all the products that we are producing in Europe, that's exactly the idea of a market economy. Those who can do this better do it there, and then they export, and then we trade. So in this sense, I think it's more it's a debate that we are now having, how how can we, in the value chain, what do we need to change? And there are sometimes occasions like the earthquake in Japan where you realize, damn, we really depend on this one supplier. If he's not able to supply us, our factories are standing still. And there comes a bit this notion, well, we need to diversify, we need to be flexible, and also make sure we have a third or second or fourth supplier here in Europe. So that's where it comes from. I think we shouldn't overreact, oversell it, that we want protectionism or something like this. It's just to have this awareness. Well, on certain things we are maybe not as good as others. Let's say the data, all this cloud technology, it is true, we depend on America, and hence there are now activities driven by the private side and political side. Well, let's do data servers also in Europe. If there's needs to be a kind of a coordinated action, probably it's worth to do it, to have the experience. That's the future to get into this. So that would be my answer, that it's a topic, but it should not lead to protectionism, because that's the whole point of cooperating with others. That it's interesting for everybody. It's a win-win situation if you cooperate with others.
Okay, thank you very much. So just one more question that is in the chat is for everyone. It's about will the workers that are used to more manual labor be put on the side in favor of the automation and people with higher school degrees? How can we make Industry 4.0 more inclusive? And this is the last question. 1 minute for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I can start. I hear this question very often. I mean, change is happening all the time. That today's world is different than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. So this was always the case. And also jobs are changing. You had automation. You have automation since 60 years. It's nothing that started with the term Industry 4.0. The term Industry 4.0 just was a kind of a pitch to everybody that digitalization is a game changer and that we need to deal with it, that we need to stay ahead. In many market segments, we are really excellent as Europe. And the whole point of Industry 4.0 is to stay excellent, to stay ahead. And for this, you need the digital tools. And and I think, we talk at the macro level. If you see it from the point of the worker or from a student who enters the job market, I mean, he looks for opportunities. Where do I have a job? Whether in Brussels they talk about Industry 4.0 or not, somebody who looks for a job, full stop. And Industry 4.0 is a means to stay competitive and to provide good services, good goods, and to provide jobs to our people in Europe. That's how I would put it.
Okay, thank you. Dieter, Joachim?
Yes, I have maybe a little bit of personal statement, personal opinion. I would like to put the question in a little bit another focus. We have digitization on the one side, which is mainly related and connected with automation. And this means also reduction of costs at the end, but the implementation of the automated things and also the maintenance of the automated things costs money and may cost even a lot of money. This is one aspect. And if you go to the worker, to the human being, to the people, myself and we are much more flexible. We are much more flexible than all the IT. And so if we have a clear vision, okay, where do we need flexibility on the one hand, or where can we automate on the other hand, I'm pretty quite sure that there will be enough of place of opportunities to integrate people with all different kind of background of education and make it inclusive. But we have clearly to think about where's efficiency needed, where's maybe flexibility and effectiveness needed.
Okay, thank you. Joachim.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit from experience from the last 5 years of what we did in Izmir. I mean, one thing is because of Taylorism, our industry has created a lot of human robots. You know, I mean, literally, you find people who know 2 or 3 operations and they sit there for 8 hours, always doing the same. I think what the biggest learning from my side was that we can standardize with automation. We can standardize really boring operations, which always look the same and always are the same in terms of quality, in terms of timing and complexity, and put the people and train the people and put the people onto something which is more complex. And why is that so essential? Because I said before, we are going into a very scattered landscape in the future of on-demand manufacturing, capsule collections and whatever. So very scattered, and we need workforce. I don't think that we need less workforce. I think just we need better educated and better trained workforce. So my take from this change that we had in Izmir was standardizing operations as much as you can and automizing them, and at the same time training the people and putting them onto more complex jobs. So I don't see that people are too much replaced in our industry. Other industries for sure, but in our industry I don't think so. And then one thing about putting people aside from Industry 4.0, we had the most fear of the technology we had on the shop floor. People were scared of being removed by Industry 4.0. Actually, the most people that we reduced by time were white collars, because you have less you need less leadership hierarchies, you need less meetings, you need less people in offices preparing and operating data, because this is all done automatically. So surprisingly, the white collar area was much more affected by Industry 4.0 than the operators.
Interesting remark, that one. Okay, we have to close, unfortunately. Okay, I have to thank you for your excellent input and presentations. Okay, so Dieter, Željko, and Joachim, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we have to move to other 2 brief presentations about projects that have strongest synergies with the CLAMTEX project. One is Galactica, is going to be presented by Simone Carli, and Text4IM by Enrico Venturini. So I'm going to give Simone, I'm going to make Simone a presenter. Please, Simone, the floor is yours.
Hi, I hope you can see my screen. Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Simone from Science Park Graz, which is home to the ESA Business Incubation Center in Austria. I'm going to introduce Galactica Hackathon. Galactica is a EU Horizon 2020 project which started at the end of last year, which aims to support innovation based on advanced manufacturing in aerospace and textile sector. As part of the project, we are organizing an hackathon, so an open innovation challenge that will take place in February and March this year, and is open to all SMEs, startups, and students in the European Union, with projects being evaluated by experts from a consortium of 10 partners that are organizing the project, in a total amount of prizes worth 50,000 euros. The hackathon will be based on a challenge, which is to propose new solutions to combine advanced manufacturing with aerospace and/or the textile sector, and will be structured in 2 rounds. The first round will be focused on the technical solution that we want to receive from applicants, and the second round, 10 teams, the 10 best teams, will be asked to come up with solution to commercialize that idea. And in the end, we will have 4 prizes. For SME and startup category, it would be 25,000 euros for the winner, 10,000 for the runner-up, while for students it will be 10,000 for the winner team and 5,000 for the runner-up. Galactica Hackathon, of course, is an opportunity to receive a direct financial support for early stage ideas to combine, as I said, advanced manufacturing with aerospace and textile. But at the same time is a great opportunity to access a European network of cluster organizations, so to gain visibility for projects. But at the same time is also a way to access the whole Galactica project that offers other instruments through the Orbital project and the Pioneer Acceleration initiatives for the scale up of innovative ideas with tickets up to 100,000 euros. The process to register to the hackathon is really easy. We have a dedicated project website, galacticaproject.eu, where you can find all the information on the project, and in the events section you can also find the specific information on the hackathon, the terms of participation, and so on, and you can enroll in the competition. As I said, this is actually the first of 2 hackathons that we are going to organize this year. The registration for this one will close on the 29th of January. We will have the first round based on the technical solution in February, and all participants will be offered 3 workshops from the partner organizations on different topics that basically will support applicants in delivering for the hackathon. And then all teams will be asked to submit a video pitch, a concept note of the solution. The 10 best ones will be selected, and then we'll have a proper, let's say, 24 hours hackathon on 18 and 19 of March, where the best teams will be awarded with the prize. This was a really quick introduction on the hackathon. If you're interested, or if anybody in your network is interested, please access our website, galacticaproject.eu, and find out more about the project and the hackathon details, and feel free to reach out in case you want more information on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I'm going to move to Enrico. Enrico, I'm going to give you...
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, Enrico. Good morning. You can present your slides if you want.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Good. So, and just confirm you can see my screen.
Yes.
Good. So, yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting. I'm going to present Tex4am. Tex4am is a partnership of textile clusters for the industrial modernization. It is a partnership funded under the COSME program, in particular from the industrial modernization program of the COSME program, and it was born within Regiotex platform. Regiotex is the network of textile regions of Europe, collecting more than 15 regions of Europe, where the textile sector is one of the pillars of the economic ecosystems. Within this platform, Tex4am, 8 regions were included, and here you can have a map of the main regions that are participating with their textile clusters. So we are the leader of the partnership. We are based in Tuscany. So Tuscany Fashion Cluster, which is managed by Next Technology Tecnotessile, is the coordinator, but we have also Romania, the northeast region of Romania, the Ateval, which is in Valencia, Citeve, which is in the north of Portugal, CLAMTEX is the cluster for technical textile in Czech Republic, Pointex, which is in Piemonte region in Italy, Smart Textile, managed by the University of Borås in Sweden, and Euromaterials, that is replacing uptake, which is the former name of this cluster, which is based in Lille and Tourcoing in France. The objectives of this partnership is to stimulate and support SMEs, textile SMEs, in the activation of cooperation for their industrial modernization. So the thematic areas are sustainability and circular economy, industry 4.0, technical and smart textiles, so advanced materials for textile sector, and creativity and new business models. So these more or less are the objectives that have been motivated by the S3 platform, so the smart specialization platform for the textile sector, and also by the European textile platform agenda that was developed quite a few years ago in the frame of the cooperation of these textile regions. Here in this slide, you have an overview of the outcomes of the project. The main interesting aspect, because I don't have the time to go through all of them, but the most interesting aspect, in my opinion, is the creation of this portfolio of project opportunities. So Text4am will activate, has activated actually already a mechanism, I will show you later in the following slide, for the creation of cooperations among the SMEs of textile sector or other sectors in these 8 regions. So the mechanism within the project will produce a portfolio of 24 proposals, which are cooperation projects that have been developed as cooperation ideas. Then the partnership will select out of these 24 the best 10 for the preparation of mini business plans, and out of these 10, 5 will be selected as best pilot cases, and pilot plans, full pilot business plans will be prepared to be presented to private or public source of fundings for their concrete implementation. So as I told you before, our main target is textile and clothing SMEs from Europe, but we also address other main actors, which are cluster staff, of course, because we have undertaken some actions for the increase of skills of textile cluster staff, and also policymakers. In the framework of Text4am, we have to arrange 2 matchmaking events for textile and clothing SMEs. The first one was organized back in November 2019 in Stockholm. It was a quite good, successful event because it was combined with national seminar regarding sustainability and for textile and clothing sector, and also fashion companies took part. And we mobilized 16 SMEs from other regions of Europe. They were brought thanks to the support from Text4am to Stockholm, and they could get in touch with Swedish SMEs, but also SMEs from other regions, because many textile companies from the European sector were present in this event. So we had 2 half days dedicated to B2B meetings, and some cooperation ideas came up after the meeting that were introduced thanks to this matchmaking. What I would like to underline is that the second matchmaking was due to be held back in April 2020, but of course it was blocked because of the pandemic. So we have a small recovery plan about this, and the second matchmaking will be organized virtually in the month of February-March. But what I would like to show you in this slide is the portfolio of project proposals. As I told you before, the portfolio should be composed of 24 project ideas. We have reached the target of 19 so far, but more will come after the matchmaking that will be organized in the next months. And as you can see, of course, for privacy reasons, I'm not going to disclose the names of the company, but just the small title of each cooperation project proposal that we have developed. So these project proposals vary in many different fields of innovation for textile and clothing sector. So we have natural fibers, new clothing items, technical textiles like 3D textile structures, artificial intelligence utilization. So we are touching many of these different thematic areas that were the topics and the targets of our partnership, as I showed in the beginning of the presentation. These, of course, these 19 project proposals that we have developed so far were selected already according to a set of selection criteria that you see on the right hand side of the screen, and now we have the best 8 that we have selected out of these 19 ready for the preparation of mini business plans. So these companies will receive a business plan ready that they can use for their for the activation of the cooperation with another SME or with an R&D provider, and they will go for public funding in case they will individuate a public call that is suitable for the implementation of their idea, or they can go also for private source of funding. So we are contacting many different associations and private banks all over Europe to get funding for these project proposals. But as I said in the beginning, then this is the second step. The third step will be the selection of 5 best project proposals for the realization of full business plans. Of course, Text4AM will not end after the finalization of these 5 business plan, but will continue afterwards because we want to keep the stabilization, the cooperation mechanism open. And to this extent, we also signed an agreement with the EU Textile 2030 association. Now, here you see the link to the Text4AM website where SMEs from textile sector or SMEs from other sector but interested in cooperating with textile SMEs can leave their ideas. There is a very simple format to fill which will allow you to submit your idea and to get assistance from Text4AM partnership for the development of your project proposals. This will be a technical assistance, but also an administrative one, because we will consider all the different aspects related to the implementation of the project proposal or this project idea. And also, as I announced before, we are organizing the second matchmaking for the Text4AM partnership that will be held virtually in late February or beginning of March. So stay tuned on our website for more info about this. And also do not forget to visit our website for many other information regarding the textile and clothing community in Europe. I would like to remind you that this project is funded by the COSME program of the European Union. And finally, let me thank the organizers, so everybody in EEIG Textile and all the CLAMTEX partnership for giving me the opportunity to present Text4AM. So as you can see, Text4AM and CLAMTEX have many points in common. They can create many synergies. And I wish all CLAMTEX members good success for this virtual exchange. And in case you want to recruit a company which is not in CLAMTEX regions, but from other regions that are part of Text4AM partnership, please feel free to contact me or the staff in EEIG Textile, and we will get you in contact in order to achieve the maximum results and the best success for our textile companies, because really with these initiatives like Text4AM and CLAMTEX, we want to push our companies to more cooperation, to innovate and to upgrade their skills. So it is all from my side. Thank you very much once again, and best wishes to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrico, for your presentation. I'm going to move to Julia. Julia is going to talk about the B2B match. Okay. Julia, you are in presenter mode.
Yes, but I can't share my screen.
Now you can.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, João. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. And first of all, I would like to thank EU Textile 2030 to host this event, Simone and Enrico to share with us the opportunities for companies of Text4AM and Galactica projects, and of course to congratulate the speakers for this interesting debate and encouraging presentation around digitalization. To conclude this journey, I will explain briefly with a practical example how you can set up meetings with other participants. Here you can see my own profile. When you go here, you can click on Book Meetings Now, and maybe have to wait a bit. You can choose the available participants. I see that my colleague from Ateval is available. I request a meeting. We have 4 slot times of 40 minutes in each session. We can choose one, and then I can write a message. Send, and we have to agree the scheduled meeting. If this person accepts the meeting, we can have an online meeting at the time scheduled. It's really easy. I'm sure most of you have participated before in this platform, and it's not difficult at all to establish B2B meetings. I hope you can start establishing meetings for the following days to have a good experience and to share knowledge with other participants. And that's all from my side.
Julia, maybe you can show the agenda, how it works, and
okay. Well, because as soon as you have scheduled all the meetings, it will appear in your own agenda. The meetings you have already scheduled. Would you like to add something else, Josep?
Yeah, maybe you can explain the marketplace section so that you can post different opportunities.
You can find different opportunities because we have several companies that offer products, services, or their expertise in this area. So you can choose the different activities when you want to schedule a meeting. You only have to click on Marketplace and you can find the different options. It's important in the registration process to choose the activities of the opportunities you are looking for. You can modify or change your profile to better adapt to future B2B meetings.
Okay, thank you very much, Julio.
Okay.
So with that, I would like to thank first of all the speakers for today, that they made a great job, a fantastic job presenting really nice opportunities, and all the participants that attended here today. And we look forward to seeing you next week on the 27th of January with the next webinar. You can, as Julia presented, you can follow up with speakers and different participants through the B2Match platform, where you can schedule meetings and you can message to exchange your email addresses if you want. And with that, thank you all very much for your participation and hope to see you next week. Thank you.